Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here. We're going to be taking through a presentation, Packaging Beyond the Virus. Presented by the NJPEC, the New Jersey Packaging Executives Club, along with us, Delia Associates. So thanks again for signing on and looking forward to a great experience with all of you. So I'm going to kick things off. I'm Ed Delia, president of Delia Associates, and I'm going to be kicking things off with a little introduction and then covering some of the key drivers we see as we move beyond the virus as they relate to the packaging and to consumer brands. And then I'm going to be turning things over to some members of my team where they're going to share some of their perspectives and insights as well. And then we're going to open things up to some open networking, and we're going to have some fun today. So it should be a great experience, and hopefully our tech works out okay. So far, so good. So as I thought back, and I was gathered with my family. That's the tradition. Whenever we bring in the new year, it's my wife Lori and I and the twins. We get together. No matter what we're doing earlier in the evening, we always get together and toast the new year together. And I remember as we were toasting to 2020, thinking, what a great year this is going to be. I mean, look at it. 2020, it's a nice, balanced, even number. It's going to be great. What could go wrong? And when 2020 began, boy, it was a great year. Everything was just seemed to be going great. And then March happened. Who knew? And who really saw that coming? None of us did, truthfully. None of us saw that coming. None of us really conceived that a virus could knock us down as hard and as fast as this one did. So we really caught us off guard. And through all of this experience, there's been a lot of loss, a lot of pain. I know I lost a family member to COVID. Many others in the audience may have, and we've all felt that anguish and the fear and the anxiety of this experience. But we persevere and we move forward, and we just have to remember, sometimes we have to keep a smile on our face, and we have to laugh a little. And there certainly has been no shortage of jokes and humor relative to the year 2020 or COVID-19. And I thought I'd share one that resonated with me, and maybe it'll resonate with you as well. And it goes something like this. 2020 is such a unique year. It has 29 days in February, 300 days in March, 5 years in April, and roughly a decade each in May and June. And that's really how it felt, didn't it? That time was kind of standing still on us, and it took us a while to adjust to the new normal, which we always do inevitably. So the good news here is, though, it's almost over. It's nearing the end. There's roughly 112 days left of 2020, and then we can close the books in this year. And I think just like not too many people could have predicted what were to occur in March of this year and forward, pretty much everybody has a lot of optimism that 2021 is going to be a better year. After all, how worse can it get? So we're all looking forward to the year ahead with a lot of general optimism that it's going to be a better year for all. So through all of this, as a company that represents and works with a lot of businesses involved in the packaging industry, we've seen some great things come out of our industry. We've seen the packaging industry as a whole respond to the need with urgency, with lots of ingenuity, with good business sense, and above all, compassion. I know certainly a number of people in this room, a number of NJPEC members, and the packaging community in general has risen to meet the need of COVID-19, and often with incredible displays of compassion and caring. And, if somebody needs help, if they need supplies, if they need advice, here, take it, here. So there's been a lot of that, and it really makes us feel proud to be connected and part of this great industry called packaging. In many cases, and for many people in this room, it also represented a time where you'd have to really go into Captain Kirk mode and boldly go and try new things. I mean, how on earth do you supply the entire nation with hand sanitizer tomorrow? Well, it takes some ingenuity. It takes people, smart people from the packaging industry to figure out how to do that. So there were certainly a lot of Captain Kirk moments, and I know firsthand a number of packaging companies going in new directions, trying new things, exploring new avenues, all to meet the need, and doing it all at quote unquote warp speed. So of course, right, how we do everything here. So we're gathered today. So as part of the New Jersey Packaging Executives Club, and this has been a tremendous organization. It really represents the best and the brightest that New Jersey has to offer in terms of packaging companies and packaging executives. Many great innovations have formed through NJPEC affiliations. Many great businesses have come together through this organization. It's a longstanding organization with a history of quality people, quality experiences. So if you're a guest today, we welcome you, and I encourage you after this session to check out njpec.com, see what that organization can do, see if it might be a fit for you and your company. It's truly a great organization and many great people, and we've been affiliated with it for many years. As for Delia Associates, packaging, the industry is kind of in our blood. We've been around for 55 years and 2 generations, and across our entire history, we have serviced and supported companies in the packaging business and longstanding involvement in the NJPEC as well. So we're a business branding and marketing firm that works primarily with suppliers and providers of goods and services in the packaging business. So it's a great industry, and I think we love it so much because it's ever evolving. In fact, COVID or not, you're always boldly going and venturing and trying new things. So it's a very dynamic and exciting industry, and we love being part of it. So as we look forward, we look ahead, we see a lot of opportunity in 2021 and beyond. And we often tell our clients and colleagues that challenges and turbulence are the breeding ground of opportunity. That's where these ideas are formed, and they have sustaining power and drive our businesses forward. So in times of turbulence, we always advise people to look for the opportunities. What are the opportunities ahead? And we see many, and I'm going to talk to a few of them today. So our presentation, Packaging Beyond the Virus. So I'm going to be kicking it off with a few of the key drivers that I see having sustaining impact on packaging and consumer brands. Then I'm going to be turning things over to Rich Palatini. He's our Director of Creative and Brand Strategy. He's going to be talking about some of the brand aspects. Jamie Rosen is our Director of Art and Design, and he's going to be talking about some of the design aspects. And then we're going to wrap things up with Matt Taylor, who's our Managing Director, who's going to be talking about brand engagement. Following that, we're going to open the floor to open networking. So you can move about in the remote platform from table to table and see old friends and hopefully make some new ones as well and have some fun. So looking forward to a good experience here. So let me kick things off. We're talking about 3 drivers. Now, there's many drivers and many impactful consumer behavioral trends that we can point to in the wake of COVID-19, but I'm going to touch on 3. And as I was thinking about them, and the 3 that I think are going to have lasting effects, I couldn't help but go back to Abraham Maslow and his pyramid and his hierarchy of human needs, and thinking about, wow, isn't it interesting that these drivers have this alignment to basic and then psychological and then self-fulfilling human needs, which are really the basis of his pyramid and his hierarchy. So I'm not going to go chapter and verse into the hierarchy needs. I've simplified it a bit, but basically Maslow said there's basic needs, there's psychological needs, and self-fulfillment needs, and they must be met in that order. So for instance, I may really want to learn the violin and take violin lessons, but if I'm out in the cold and I have no food and I have no shelter, I'm probably going to take care of those needs before I worry about signing up for violin lessons. So, and it goes kind of like that. There's a priority of needs, and the basic needs must be met first before esteem and belonging needs are met, and then before ultimately self-fulfillment needs are met. And interestingly, this pyramid aligns nicely with some of the key drivers. So the first one that I would address is driver number 1 is it safe? And I would argue that clean is the new green. When we turned the year and we started in 2020, there was still a lot of continuous motion and activity about sustainability, about green packaging that got sidelined a little bit in the face of clean. And in a previous presentation, I suggested that we're ushering in what I'll call a purity movement, where hygiene and wellness, and it's beyond hand sanitizer. It's really full wellness, physical wellness, emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, and above all, hygiene are going to be major driving forces for consumer behavior for, in my view, many years to come. Is it clean? Is it safe? So anything that has to do with consumer brands and packaging that supports or substantiates that is going to be adopted and seen as good. Further, for many years, we were seeing everything, a miniaturization of technology and goods. It used to be the saying was small is the new big. Well, now I'd say bulk is the new small. And we're seeing a movement to consumers buying bulkier packages. We've even done it here. I have a tub of sanitary wipes, it looks like a 40-gallon drum. It's huge. So we're buying in bulk because bulk is seen as safe, because I have enough supply in case I ever have to shelter in place again, or in case I can't move about and get goods as I need them. So we see a lot of consumers more inclined to buy in bulk, and I think that's going to be sustainable, and that obviously has implications for packaging in bulk. The second driver, can I get what I need? This has really been a major tipping point for e-commerce. Any of those buyers that were on the fence or just preferred to buy things at the store, really, maybe that older generation of buyers that wasn't fully trusting of e-commerce or wasn't trusting of it for all goods. I used to be a much heavier guy. I've lost about 80 pounds in the last few years. And I know that when I was heavier, I could never buy clothes, for instance, online, because you see this perfectly formed model wearing a shirt, but, I was shaped more like a manatee. So, how does it look on a manatee? Well, I don't know. So, but now I'm even okay with buying apparel online and many other goods that maybe a year ago I would have been inclined to say, no, I'd rather go to the store for that. And I think that's true of a lot of consumers now. So what that means is really we have to think e-commerce first and retail second in our packaging designs and in our delivery systems. And there's major opportunities there, because that's just not happening yet. I mean, if I put on my consumer hat and I see some of the packages that arrive at our doorstep, I see a lot of inefficiencies in the packaging. I see a lot of clunkiness in the packaging. So I think there's major opportunities for the whole supply chain to create new innovation and new opportunity in terms of how goods are moved through e-commerce, and thinking that first and retail second. Further, I think we're also seeing a major tipping point in the subscription business. It's one step further. So if I know I'm buying things on a certain interval, why not make it subscription based? So I think you're going to see a lot of rapid adoption of subscription buying, because consumer behavior, once I've adopted a brand, it's kind of part of me, it's part of my psyche. I don't really feel I need to think about it anymore. And when I have a subscription program where it's just coming to me when I need it on intervals without me having to go get it or think about it, it makes my life easier. It makes the connectivity to that brand, and that's really becomes a psychological need being met of fulfillment, being part of the tribe of that brand, being part of that subscription makes you part of that tribe. So I think being on the lookout for opportunities in packaging from a subscription standpoint, I think there's going to be many. There already are, and I know a lot of members in the audience are already working down those channels, which is great, and I would just encourage to keep on keeping on. Then the third driver is it available now? So either I can get it now or reasonably soon, or I no longer want it at all. As an example, a month or two into the pandemic, I have a home gym. I'm like, okay, I need to retool the home gym. Let me go see if I can get some new equipment. And it was sold out. There was nothing available, not for many, many months. So I ended up not getting anything, because if I can't have it now, maybe I don't really want it at all. Maybe I don't need it. So making goods available and making goods available rapidly is going to represent major supply chain shifts and diversification. No longer can we keep all eggs in one basket. We really have to diversify, and I would argue even localize supply chains and create micro supply chains to not only meet the needs of the day, but meet them with speed, because I think that's going to be a lasting expectation. I want it now, but is it available now? Is it going to fulfill me, give me that self-fulfillment now, because I want it now and I want access to it now. So again, great opportunities for the packaging supply chain and brands to figure out how to meet the need, but to do so with speed and to get people what they want and to get it there expeditiously at warp speed, right? Just like we do everything. So summing it up for suppliers and brands. So again, aligning packaging and delivery systems with purity and cleanliness, falling in step with that purity movement, and making sure that wherever you can, your packaging is creating and fostering hygiene and overall wellness. Remembering that e-commerce is the forethought now. It's not the afterthought. It's the primary driver to how packaging is formed and delivery systems are set up and put forth. And then being very agile and willing and open to diversifying relationships and working with partners in new ways, and often letting technology be the bridge to foster new relationships and diversifying the supply chain to make sure that you can meet the need, but do so with speed. So those are some of the key drivers. And now I'm going to turn things over to Rich Palatini, and he's going to talk a little bit about brand. Okay, gang, it looks like Rich is having some technical difficulty. I apologize for that. So I'll just carry through on the next part of the segment until Rich works out his tech glitch there. So sorry about that. So we're talking a little bit about brand. And in this environment, it's important to be more human, especially when we have to be human at a distance and doing more and overemphasizing our human touch with buyers, with brands, and having a more human connectivity to our buyers, whoever they may be. People are ultimately the brand's best ambassadors. So maintaining that human connection in any way you can, whether it be through video, through voice, and through whatever connectivity means. And in this environment, it doesn't necessarily have to be perfectly choreographed and beautiful. It just has to be authentic and genuine and sincere. You could still be there. You could still be engaged. It's just that you may have to do it with the screen instead of face to face. And a day will come when we can get back together and that day's not too far off. We're starting to see meetings happening and things of that nature. But you can still be there without being there. And I think this latest episode and Turbulence has shown us that. Using images, using video to be expressive and over-expressing a little bit to deliver and to create that human element wherever possible. And there's obviously some great tie-ins with packaging and technology to do that. Also, it's important to always be on brand. So just because circumstances change, they'll always change. Our world is always evolving. There's always going to be turbulence and challenges. But to always remember, stay true to the brand, stay true to your core brand and what you are and what you represent in that brand DNA at all times. Every brand has a personality. Every brand has distinction by virtue of its existence. So it's important to not lose that in light of the technology or in the delivery systems of how brands communicate and engage, whether consumer products or packaging, maintaining that distinctive personality above all else. And ultimately, yes, being true to who you are, being true to what you stand for, and being unwavering and unapologetic and confident in who you are as a distinct brand entity. Ultimately, especially in times like this, it's important to help people feel good because we want to feel good, right? We don't want to be mired in the frustration and the anxiety of being distanced. We want to feel good, and so ultimately helping people feel good and positive, bringing more positivity to brands and brand messaging, and even packaging and package design, making people feel good. Again, thinking back to that idea of purity and wellness. Well, part of wellness is also emotional wellness, which is feeling good, and having tremendous empathy, right? Above all else, recognizing that different people are affected by COVID-19 in ways of varying severity. So always being very empathetic to the circumstances, and then being open, being real, and being true to who you are as a person too through all this. Lower minimums, quantity discounts, free shipping, faster shipping, free consults, more virtual service, being empathetic, being willing to give a little more than maybe you normally would have, being willing to be in a position of letting others feel that you're over giving a little bit to ultimately help them, because that's what they're going to remember. And that's what's going to leave a lasting impression. And that's what's going to keep that business relationship with you for a long time. As a result of this, I think we've realized that our world is closer and more connected than maybe we thought. And that space and physical distance don't matter as much as we thought. So technology allows us to connect easier. There also has been this tipping point of usage of technology to connect, and it's been fairly well embraced. So the world does feel like a little more of a connected place, and we no longer see those mental constraints of physical distance per se in terms of how we communicate and engage. We can engage. I mean, there's people on this call right now. I think the furthest guest is dialed in from Africa. So, space and time zones, they don't matter. Our world is much more connected than maybe we realized, and that's a good thing because it allows brands to connect with greater reach. Ultimately, be a friend. And a great position to have as a supply chain brand or as a consumer-facing brand is to be a friend, to be friendly, to extend that virtual handout in friendship, and ultimately to be supportive the way a good friend would, and to really think about clients, think about customers, think about relationships as a good friend, and treat them as such, and conduct your brands and yourselves as such. Ultimately, right now, this is a period where overselling is just a turnoff. So don't sell, don't oversell, don't get overly aggressive. It's really more about doing your homework and understanding your buying audience or your buyer and what they're all about, and thinking about them and their needs and what their plans were pre-COVID, and now what are their plans post-COVID and how those have changed, and ultimately being a friend and then an ally and an advisor and guide to helping them meet the challenges, both here and the challenges ahead, with friendship, with empathy, and with all support, while staying true to who you are and true to who they are. And always asking, how can you help? Rich, are you here? I thought I just saw Rich join us, but okay. Rolling forward, be a human, empathetic friend, and that takes us through the next segment. And now I'm going to turn things over to Jamie Rosen, Director of Art and Design, who's going to take us through the next segment. Let's see if this works. Yeah, look at that.
All right, here we go. Hello, everybody. So that's it. My name is Jamie Rosen. I'm the Director of Art and Design at Delia Associates. We have been working with our clients through this sort of unprecedented time, and you know, as crazy as it was for everybody in the beginning, I feel like we've all sort of gotten on the right track now. We've repositioned quite a few of our clients to respond to the situation now and how to respond to it moving forward. Much of what Ed noted earlier and in Rich's segment there, we talked about, you know, the idea of being human and how much closer we all are now, even though we're all apart. So where do we get that closeness? It's all online. A lot of what we're doing now is in the digital space. And for those that weren't as positioned or focused on that digital space before this event, now is the time to really focus on it, because if you're not working towards making that digital space better, better designed, better engaging, it's only going to hurt once we get past what we're calling now, you know, sort of shelter in place. Things are starting to open up slowly, but I think we can all agree that there's going to be a new normal. We're not going to end up back to where we were before March for quite some time, even as things continue to open up. So on the next slide, I'm quoting Don Norman, who is the inventor of the term user experience. I'm talking about design, but I'm talking about it from a user experience standpoint today. It's not just everything's got to look pretty. Everything needs to work together as a full experience, both from a product, a service, to the brand. So as Don quoted here, you know, no product is an island. A product is more than the product. It's a cohesive, integrated set of experiences. We have to make them all work together seamlessly. So I don't look at it as just a product. I don't look at it as just a digital experience. UX is typically applied to that, but I'm talking about a brand experience here, and that incorporates everything. On the next slide, I'm talking about the brand user experience. So what do I mean by that? I'm talking about your brand, whether you're actively promoting it as an individual, a salesperson, etc., or if your website, your social, your print ads, all of that is a brand user experience. You want to engage in your customers, your B2B customers, they have B2C customers. Everybody's human at the end of the day. And you know, I know, when you go to a website, or you see a social post, or you see an ad or an online banner, you know when it doesn't feel right, you know when it doesn't look right, and you know when you land on a website, whether you want to stick there or not. So if somebody's learning about your brand for the first time, that first impression makes or breaks, especially right now, because people are bouncing all over looking for new ways to grow through this experience or buy services or products. So on the next slide, I'm going to be talking about how your brand, the logo in and of itself, is looking across all of the channels. Right now, and this has been trending for the last few years, but it's important to bring it up. You have to be flexible in this digital space, and you want to be as cohesive and clear with maximum recognition across the board. So these examples that I'm sharing here for Coke, Chanel, Walt Disney, Heineken, Warner Brothers, Kodak, there's 4 different stages of the way that they represent their logos. In the past, nobody would dissect their logos in this way, but because of the digital space and some of the smaller areas that you have to promote yourself, you have to rethink your logo so that it's more flexible. On the next slide, what I'm talking about here is synergy. And the synergy applies to both your brand, your logo, your colors, and then your products, your labels, and then the advertising space in which that they all live. They all have to feel that they're together. Sometimes you have different people working on different aspects of promoting your brand, both on the design side and on the implementation side. There has to be synergy between all of those things so that people start to feel comfortable, they've recognized you, and they see how you represent. On the next slide, I'm talking about consistency. So one of the things that we do for our clients is, in bigger cases that where they work with different vendors, they have different locations, they're spread across bigger areas. We've designed, brand guidelines playbooks, right? And that's nothing new. That's not unique to us. It's just, it's a reinforcement of your brand. So if you create 4 different aspects of your logo, you're capturing it in a document. You're able to share that with other people on your team and other vendors that support your brand so that colors are consistent, photography is consistent, typography is consistent. All of those things are gelling, because the better that they gel, the better that you're going to be represented across the board. So on the next segment here, I'm talking about the product user experience. So we talked about a couple of tips for how to position your brand for a better user experience, but now I'm going to be talking about how to position your product or your services for a better user experience. On the next slide, I'm talking about how to simulate a physical experience through a risk-free digital experience. So what does that mean? I'm talking about how to take the aspect of your products and bring them into an interactive world, right? So we're talking about photography, we're talking about how to elevate your services, much more so now that people don't have the opportunity or maybe the willingness to come to a plant to take a tour or to see products in actual physical space. So on the next slide, I'm talking about the enhanced and increased product photography through website and social, right? So again, this might be a no-brainer to some. You're probably already doing some aspect of that, but what I'm talking about here is that you need to elevate the photography of your products or your services in a much bigger way than what you've had in the past. Because when somebody gets to your site, when they're interacting with you on social, they want to be able to touch, essentially, in a bigger way than they had before, what you have to offer. And then lastly, on this next slide, on this section, I'm talking about creating demo videos, right? Or a virtual tour of your plant, or a new, you might have a new machine that's innovative or makes things much faster to go to market. Don't just say it, show it. That's really what it comes down to. You have to show more in your digital space than you've ever had before. I know that's not an overnight turn the switch and that happens, but to start working towards that as a goal, because the sooner you're able to, the better position you are now and then in the future. And then lastly, in this next slide, I'm going to be talking about the engagement user experience. And Matt Taylor is going to be talking much more about engagement in general as it relates to technology and how to engage brands in general, but I'm talking about engagement in the sense of design. Again, some of this is sort of no-brainer and smart thinking that it's been going on for a while, but it's good to bring it back and think about it now. So on the next slide, I'm talking about minimalistic landing pages. So what does that mean? Clean, easy interfaces. Big, bold title. What does it do for me? That's what I want to know right away. I don't want a lot of fluff. I want this thing to look good on desktop and mobile, and I want to show exactly what I need to show. And I want to be able to give somebody a quick path, what the old saying, lead the horse to water, to the next stage of what they are going to be looking for, the user experience from your customers. What do they actually want from this product? Is it a demo? Is it they want to see more detail on it? They want a video? All of that can be captured very quickly in a minimalistic landing page. And then on the next slide, talking through the calls to action on those landing pages, right? So it has to be purposeful. It needs to get right to the point. So these three examples here I'm showing on the left is, sign up for an e-newsletter about this new product that might be launching, a new service. The next might be, click here to schedule a demo. Another might be to download a lead magnet. And then on the last slide here, I'm talking about video content. And I know that, in the last 5 years alone, just with the capability that I have on my phone, I can take video at a higher quality than any kind of handheld device that's been created even previously. So it's much easier to create videos of a product or a tour, or even if it's somebody talking and demoing a product, how it's made, how it comes together. All of those things could be shared easily on a video, and then on the site, be it social or on your actual website itself, you can promote that video. Video's taking up more than 84%, I think, of internet traffic right now. So it's only going to get more, and your clients are going to be looking for it. Your competitors are most likely already doing some part of that, and you want to make sure that you're positioned to be able to do that as well. So I'm going to be on the floor later after our presentation here. So if you want to search me out for any other design thoughts, please do so. Now I'll turn it over to Matt Taylor. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Jamie. And just to address a couple of the comments in the chat and questions, if you're not seeing the slides advanced, we will be providing the slides and the recording of the presentation following today's event. Now I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, just because we want to give some ample time for the floor and the networking. But let's get started. So I'm talking about engagement, and my background is all digital marketing and engagement online and campaign work. And going to the next slide, we're going to be revisiting this common theme, this be more human theme. As we all sit behind screens, like what you see with us today, it's different than the experience of being in front of somebody or sitting in the conference room or spending time with somebody. And it's really changed kind of how we interact a little bit. So I'm going to talk about some opportunities for engagement here. So as we've experienced change, practices of sales and marketing in the B2B world have changed a little bit. There's a rich history of that person-to-person handshake type of business development. People are behaving differently, learning new methods of communication, sometimes struggling to adapt to the new form of our digital society. And this is in some ways putting stress on the relationships that may have felt easier to maintain before. So I'm going to go through a quick few thoughts to bring to the table. And if you just go back a slide, to help your organization bridge the gap from that handshake to the video chat, which brings me to this first thought, which is a buzz phrase back on the past slide, called retention is the new acquisition. And as relationships experience difficulties in digital-only communication, the involvement in your customer's world is very important. B2B buyers want to be considered as partners rather than targets by their suppliers. And that's really important here. So here's a few tactics that might help bridge the gap. On the left side, we see, really, it's like the old thought of the survey, but the survey is, the technology side has really advanced, where write an email, right on the phone, you can check in with your customers, have a personal note to that, see how they're doing, send a survey and let them know you're thinking about them. It was the in-person meeting, the phone calls and the emails. We have so much power and technology at our fingertips now. And this is just another point of contact that you can bring to them through various channels, even in social media, polling, to show your customers and your partners that you are thinking about them and you're spending time thinking about them. You're not just behind the screen. We could host a webinar or virtual conference, much like what we're doing today. This platform, as I'd mentioned before, is called Remo, and it's meant to try to mimic that trade show conference feel, where we have tables we can go to. It's a little bit limited. It's not like a Zoom meeting where you might have 40, 50 people in one space and everybody's trying to figure out who can talk and, trying to get over the organization and the structure of it. You can kind of keep it controlled and really give a good sense of a physical space, even in a virtual environment. And consider enhancing your outreach with SMS. I know it was a little bit of an annoying piece of our technology years back, but it is advanced significantly. So now that when you post a blog or a news item to your website, say, or out to press, or offer some kind of a regular follow-up, the SMS, the text messaging, has become much more streamlined and much more convenient and powerful, to the point where when my power goes out here at the house, I text a number to say it's out, and I get status updates through that text message, and it's much easier than logging in online. So we can work ways to distribute content and communicate with customers and your audience through text messaging and SMS. So as we go on to the next slide space here, my second thought is the evolution and increase in the use of marketing automation, with which we need to keep in mind that we are talking to people, not just pushing out volume of information. So here's a few things for getting the most out of automation and artificial intelligence-based tools on the next slide. We want to make sure that when you're doing email campaigns to outreach based on maybe services, capabilities, news, products, whatever the case may be, that there's some personality in that. There's the personal feel to that. And it's not just the traditional, here's what we do, bullet points marketing. It has to, we got to remember, we are talking to humans that have related interests. So we want to use some personality in those campaigns. That goes from the subject line to the intro to how we're expecting them to work through the content, like Jamie was talking about in user experience behavior. And just a little quick tidbit, merge tags on your platform. So we're talking about things like HubSpot or SharpSpring or MailChimp. Using those for email campaigns, they allow you to calculate the receiver's first name, or their company name, or a date, or time, or something. There's the possibilities are really endless there, so that you can send a mass email out to thousands of people, but when they receive it individually, it will feel more like it's coming straight to them and straight from you. In the center here, talking about social media, it was important before just to be on social media. And sometimes it doesn't seem so, but we can get into a whole SEO discussion about why not have it there. You might as well put your company up there, make it look good, and get the benefit for Google search. But also something I like to talk about with social media is there might be some concern on the legal side of putting content out on social media. Well, if somebody's going to talk about your company out there, nothing's stopping them from talking about it. So you might as well be on the platform and speaking intelligently and pushing out your content there, because one way or another, if it's going to be discussed, it will be with or without you. The different social platforms require different kinds of content. So LinkedIn, we know that it is a more professional audience. People are sharing more professional types of information. Facebook is very much still more of a personal and benefit space. So this is a place where it's great to push out that professional content, but also things about what your team's up to, maybe some charitable, CSR type of causes that you work with, things that relate to the people more casually browsing. That's the the 8 p.m. Couch audience browsing through Facebook, and Twitter. Twitter still remains the event discussion space, and it was very prominent discussing Twitter's use when you are on the floor at a trade show, and posting pictures of your booth or banners or things, speeches you're attending. Now it's starting to feed into the virtual events, and we're seeing tweets and streams of virtual events and conferences and talks happening everywhere. And lastly, when it comes to advertising and engagement, it's easy to kind of fall into let's put an ad out there, let's talk about this service of ours, and let's just push it out. But now with artificial intelligence and machine learning, we can really dive deep into understanding the audience. So if you have a Google AdWords account, or if you do any sort of pay-per-click advertising on social channels, go into those analytics and see what the people are actually typing in that bring your ad up. See what their interests are. It will give you some really good feeds of how they're engaging with you, if they're sharing things, if they're going to your website from a Google ad. Where do they go? Are they going to that page and then jumping right off of it? Are they going to that page and then checking out some other services? This could give some really good insight into how you might want to modify that page, or insight into how you can better engage your audience with those ads in the forefront. So on to the next slide. My final thought: investment across the full customer lifecycle is now more important to show your customer that you are indeed that partner and not just waiting for them to sign the PO. So consider all the channels and how you're using them best. You see mobile, social, email, the phone. Obviously the phone is still very important. Your website as the hub, your ads, print or otherwise. If you have a physical space where people come, that's probably less traffic now. So how can you represent that physical space? It might just be part of your social media outreach to say, a picture of your lobby, make people feel that they are they're still in touch with the physical space as well. And always trying to garner some sort of feedback as well. That can be done through those surveys and through simple, good conversation. So in the next slide, there's so many possible channels to use, and I'm not going to go through each one, but there's some interesting things for further engagement. Lead magnets being one of them. Webinars that are just kind of pushed out rather than conference-based. The good old traditional mailings. The mail system is still working, for sure. These are some of the methods that might make good sense to kind of bring back as we get so digital and so into the tech side of communication. Sometimes, I get speaking of SMS, I get a feed from the post office showing me what I'm going to get in the mail that day in the morning. And sometimes that's a little bit exciting. I get an actual print item in the mail. So it's not something to dismiss as part of a full immersive communication campaign in engaging with your customers. So as we may never go back to normal. That's not really back to normal. We'd love to, but this is definitely going to impact how things change. But we're always going to be humans with similar needs and interests and behaviors. We need to leverage our marketing and branding in a way that keeps a strong connection with our audiences. And we need to always remember that the people pictured here working in the facilities are also, on the next slide, the people at the other end of the package. We are all humans, and that's how we connect. So let's engage, let's use and leverage technology in the best way we can in this digital age, and how things have evolved here. and we can make the most of it and still feel human with each other. So that concludes the presentation. Thank you for any of the other questions that you had submitted in the chat. We'll review and respond to all questions following the event, but we also have this networking portion that we're going to get into here, where we'll be on the floor as well. And again, we're going to provide these presentation slides and the recording of the presentation to you in the coming days as we put it together. And now we're going to head to our networking session. So any of the other speakers, if you want to bring your cameras and mics back up, when we do stop presenting, you'll be able to double click on a table to join others at that table. And we'll be floating around. We might be on side tables, and we might be joining some of the tables here on the floor. And we can always, of course, answer questions in the chat or ask us to come over because you guys are talking about something specific you'd like to pick our brains on. Make sure you turn on your mic and camera when you do join a table, and we look forward to seeing you there. Any last words, guys?
Nope, sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you all. We'll see you on the floor.
Okay.